Hello and welcome back to another video, and today I have an absolutely epic budget, under $100, main deck, extra deck, 40 card main deck, 50 card extra deck, Swordsoul deck profile for you guys. Now this deck has a lot of crafting put into it, and yeah, for all the people who want to play Swordsoul but can't necessarily afford cards like Moyi or Incredible Ecclesia, but still want to get relatively similar power from the deck, this is for you. So without further ado, be sure to smash that one, comment down below what you guys think of the deck, and of course subscribe to the channel. It is completely free, and yeah, as you can see over here on TCG Player, this is $105 USD, and these aren't even the cheapest copies of the cards. Some cards are a bit like high rarities and stuff like that, just to make it a bit nicer. So you can get this deck for under 100 easily. So yeah, let's get right into the deck profile. All right, so first off, as you can see, it's 40 cards and a 15 card extra deck. Side deck is not built with this because the side deck is it pushes us a bit too far over $100. And then yeah, just in case you guys can get one Moyi, I'd recommend it, but obviously this is not make or break, but even having one Moyi definitely helps the deck out. But without that, I think I've constructed a pretty cool deck that can still operate in a very similar fashion to ordinary Swordsoul. So yeah, let's get right into it. One copy of Arch Nemesis Protos. This card is taking over 10% of your budget. This is like a $15 card or something, and it's well worth it. This is your goal with this deck. Basically, the whole point of this deck is to go Chishao, Protos, and Blackout, or something along those lines. It's pretty cool, and I really do think that this card carries a lot of the aspects of this deck that it's missing, being not able to have access to cards like Baron de Fleur, which are more expensive than every single card on the screen combined right now. And yes, so one copy of Protos, you do have to run this card if you want to play Swordsoul, even though it is a budget Swordsoul list. 3 copies of Ashuna. Ashuna is under 50 cents, and this card is broken. Basically, it summons out a Tenyi monster from your deck by banishing it from the graveyard while you control normal monster. To go with that, we have 3 copies of Vishuda. Vishuda also extremely cheap. This has the same effect, a special summon as Ashuna, but it can also bounce a card your opponent controls. And yeah, 3 copies of Adhara over here too. Adhara is also very good just for cycling and resources. And then 2 copies of Shithana. Shithana is pretty cool. It's not really that played. Basically, if a face-up effect, a non-effect monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish it, and then target one of the destroyed monsters, special summon it, and then destroy a card your opponent controls, or a monster your opponent controls. Now, as you can probably tell, we are running a larger Tenyi lineup than most lists, being, of course, also Triple Circle and all of that stuff. But the Tenyi cards help make up for not running cards like Incredible Ecclesia or Moyi, getting you the extenders you need to keep on playing. And they are still really good cards by themselves, so I do think that to play this deck on a budget, you do need to be running a bigger Tenyi lineup than average. Next up, onto the Swordsoul, we have the card that's basically carrying the deck. 3 copies of Swordsoul of Taya. Taya is under $1, and this card is crazy. Basically, you can banish Swordsoul card from a graveyard and special summon a Swordsoul token. That is basically all it does. Also, when it's sent to the graveyard for a synchro summon, you can foolish a Swordsoul card or a Were monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is pretty cool. But yeah, Taya is absolutely broken. You need to be running 3 copies of this card because this card is what makes the deck work. Additionally, you have 3 copies of Long Yun over here. Long Yun is crazy, being able to discard a Swordsoul or another Were monster to special summon it from your hand and summon out a token. This gives you access to incredibly powerful cards like Chao Feng, and also, of course, our Cheng Ying, and so on. This card is just a very good card that is actually very surprisingly, and I don't understand why, $1.50 on TCG Player lowest as of recording, which is kind of crazy. This card is very good, and I do think outside of this deck, you guys should be picking up your copies of Long Yun, because this card is bound to go up anytime, because it's an ultra rare, and it's $1.50, and it's being played as a 3 of an incredibly meta deck, so that's why I believe that. But yeah, so that's our basic engine for the deck. We have the Tenyies and Swordsoul cards. It is oddly really consistent and stuff, and it does work really well. You're basically playing Swordsoul over here just with some other cards, you know? 3 copies of Effect Veiler. This is actually kind of big part of your budget. Not really, like I believe $5 or $6 or something. But yeah, Effect Negation is really good, and you do want to be running at least 1 hand trap in the deck if you can. So yeah, Veiler is great, and also a lot of you guys will probably already have this card, which is really cool. Next up, we have 3 copies of Vessel for the Dragon Cycle. Vessel is an incredible card, being a Foolish, and then another Foolish if you have a face-up non-effect monster, which is, or not another Foolish, search for a Tenyi monster if you control a non-effect monster, which is really cool. So 3 copies of Vessel, I believe, is pretty mandatory in a deck with such a high Tenyi lineup as this one. 3 copies of Emergence. Emergence is also one of the highest priced cards in the deck. I believe it was almost like $8 per copy, which is very reasonable, searching, because it can search you literally a Taie or a Longyun, so it lets you essentially run 12 Sword Soul monsters in total, being 6 Taie and 6 Longyun, which is really, really cool. Also, yeah, this card is really good and does have a pretty cool banish effect where you can increase or decrease a level by 1 until the end of the turn, but that won't come up too often. Next up, we have 3 copies of Heavenly Dragon Circle. This card is incredibly powerful. It has a quick play spell, so at any time you can chain this. If your opponent goes Veiler, you can chain Circle, tribute the monster, and your card will slow resolve. But yeah, tribute one Were monster and then search a Were monster from your deck to your hand. And then if you tribute a non-effect monster, you can special summon it instead, which is really, really, really cool. This card is crazy. And then in the main phase, you can actually banish it from the graveyard if you have a non-effect monster, and then add a Tenyi monster from your deck to your hand, which is really, really cool. This card is incredibly powerful, and in such a Tenyi-based deck with all these Sword Soul cards, you really do need to be running 3 copies of this card. Next, we have 3 copies of Pot of Desires. You need to be running 3 copies in this deck. You have so many 3-ofs, it doesn't hurt to vanish anything. So yeah, run Desires. It's a great card, you know, gets you card advantage, all that good stuff. 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice. So this card is actually $2.50, I believe, which is kind of pricey considering the budget that we're working with over here. But Chalice is a very good card. Of course, you can also sub this out for more budget hand traps such as Meister or like Ogre, stuff like that. Or if you already have like Ashes or Imprims, definitely toss those in. But yeah, 3 Chalice is a very good card, and I really do like it in the deck. Helps you break boards and like cards that you shouldn't be able to break through with such a budget deck. 3 copies of Blackout over here. Or normally in Sword Soul, you won't be running 3 copies. You'd be running 1 or 2. But I believe that in this deck, we really do need to be running 3 copies of Blackout, because we do want to draw this card as much as possible, because it is an inherent interruption, and having more copies is really nice. And when we don't have cards that just inherently negate stuff, like, what's it called? Baron de Fleur, I believe having 3 Blackout in the deck, especially for the resources too, and the more names that you just have, because you can't Foolish your Moyu or anything like that anymore. You just need to have more names, so 3 Blackout is very, very good in the deck. 1 copy of Imperial Order. All these cards are fine, and after they resolve, you just go Order, you win the game. You can also side this out for whatever you end up building your side deck to be, but yeah, Order is a pretty great card, and you definitely should be running it. And that's it for our 40 card main deck. It is incredibly tight, like budget wise, because yeah, this is a $100 deck, and the main deck is taking around $80, I believe, or something like that, worth $70 to $80. So yeah, this is the main deck. I'm really happy with it, and honestly, I'm really proud that we have a Sword Soul deck over here for under 100. Onto the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Dragite. Dragite's a cool card. You also have Shithana for the Dragite Negate, in case you want to make that. You can negate a spell and trap when you have Shithana in your graveyard. 1 copy of Jacob Berserker of the Tenyi. This card is a cool going second board breaking level 8 sinker. You can make this if you want. It's a pretty solid card. 2 copies of Baxia. Honestly, we have the space. We might as well be running 2 copies, but yeah, a lot of lists are in 2 copies regardless. Basically, when it's synchro summoned, it bounces cards with different up to the number of different original attributes of Were monsters used for the Synchro Summon, and shuffles them into the deck, which is really, really cool. And then it also does have another effect to revive a card from the graveyard by popping a card you control, which is really, really cool. Baxia is just an incredible card. You should definitely be running 2 copies of it, especially considering that it is 20 cents. Next up, we have 1 copy of Yazi over here. Yazi's crazy. I don't think I need to explain why we're running Yazi. Yazi is just a very, very, very good card. 1 copy of Chao Feng over here. Chao Feng is just incredible. It's basically another Protoss, but it's not exactly Protoss because it just works very differently, which does contradict, but whatever. But yeah, when you have your Protoss and your Chao Feng on the field together, your opponent really isn't going to be coming back. This card is just incredible, and I definitely recommend running it, especially with Longyun in the deck. 2 copies of Qishao. Qishao is a cool card. It is a $6 card or something, so if you want to run 1 copy, you can get away with that and save $6 budget, and yeah, that's pretty cool. We have 2 copies of Swordsoul Supreme Ching Ying is not ideal, but it is still a pretty good card. Don't underestimate this card because this card is still pretty cool. It's hard to out, it gets really big, and if it's destroyed, you can banish a card from the graveyard instead. And yeah, you can just sit on this card instead of your Baron de Fleur, and it's still a really good card to be on. 1 copy of Draco Masters of the Tenyi. This card's just a generic Link 3, including a Link monster, and it's pretty cool because it can be destroyed by battle with an effect monster, and the effect is kind of relevant, but yeah, it's a solid Link 3 Tenyi monster that is under $1. 1 copy of Shaman of the Tenyi. Shaman is just a really cool card. It comes up every once in a while, so you do want to be running this card. Yeah, 1 Shaman. Finally, 3 copies of Monk. Ordinarily, you will be running 2, but once again, you're running so many Tenyis in this deck that you really do want to be running 3. That's basically it for the deck profile. Thank you so much for watching. This was a budget Swordsoul, under $100. So if you guys like this, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's completely free, and I'll appreciate it so much. There's a ton of work that went into constructing this weird deck, and yeah, I hope you guys liked it. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Alright guys, peace.